state of the AI markets, what's hot, what's not, AXBT and its competitors, Cookie.fun and its competitors, BitDAO Tensor and the exciting stuff happening with the subnets, much more. Let's get started immediately. First things first, what happened with the Trump nonsense? Of course, this is a glorified meme coin. It doesn't matter who is behind it. As you can see, yesterday, Melania launched her version of a meme coin. It sucked up all the liquidity from Trump token, and now it is just a ridiculous game that you're choosing to play. Of course, we've already talked about this. The simplest way to do this is not to speculate so much on the price itself, but to capitalize on the volumes generated from Ethereum. So this is the way I'm playing this. So if you want to believe that Trump is going to be the next Doge, be my guest. But in the meantime, just de-risk as soon as possible. Also, near the end of the video, we're going to go into specific narratives and specific project plays that are maybe the best cooks. But in the meantime, let's take a look at the overall market. So we're down to 15 billion from 17, 18 billion a couple of days ago, which is, of course, a result of Trump sucking up all of the liquidity over the last couple of days, which is unfortunate because it means that not a lot of new money has entered the space. It has only rotated into what people believe to be the next hot thing. Does it mean that AI is done for? Obviously not, because stuff such as Fartcoin, it's ridiculous. It's up almost 2x on the weekly, which is outperforming most of the rest of the market, which has actual utility, but there's still some players and plays that need to be looked at. First of all, we need to talk about mindshare. So Fartcoin in the last 24 hours has actually flipped AXBT on mindshare, which is insane, which means that it is taking the most of crypto Twitter attention, which is amazing to see. So 31% increase in the last 24 hours is not something that you can ignore. As more mainstream media starts paying attention, it is actually maybe the purest meme in existence, because people forget that it was actually envisioned by Truth Terminal. It was actually the first thing even before GOAT, and it has no execution risk. So in these moments where vaporware really becomes deflated, you can see that some OG plays, let's call it like that, are still holding strong. So this is something, maybe a key takeaway to consider. And from a more macro side of things, we can see that, well, history doesn't really repeat, it sure as hell rhymes. And from the total funding raised from 2020, so December of 2020, we had a very similar uptick in liquidity, just as we experienced in the December of 2024. But the real inflow and real overvalued, ridiculous valuations are probably still to come. Now, from the other side, we also have some major fintech companies such as Revolut crossing the Rubicon, as AXBT says, while integrating with Pyth data to really bring millions and millions of users worth of banking data directly on chain. Next up, let's take a quick summary of ETH Denver, what has been talked about on this conference. So AI in crypto is proven to be the hottest narrative, and AI agents must be trustless, meaning that we should have trustless execution environments, which means that in the future, there should be really just agent-to-agent interactions, no human interactions, and verifiable autonomy. This is something to work on, but it could be one of the more important narratives. So if you see some projects working to really make agents autonomous, maybe even more humane, such as Solgraph and many others, then this could be very hot. Now, some of the most trending projects on this space have currently been Story Protocol and Nillion, and you can see that AXBT is constantly talking about Story Protocol, talking about the importance of IP rights with AI agents and all these things. So you can see some big backers behind Nillion. Of course, they have raised 140 million in several funding rounds. So yes, this could also be a very bullish sign. And Nillion, as we've mentioned, quadrillion times, one of the very few testnet projects that I'm still actively working on. They're building something very interesting with Blind Computer, but we already talked about this in previous videos, so not to repeat ourselves. Of course, chain abstraction, DeFi AI, leading the charge with Vechain, Heanon, and many other projects are really onboarding a lot of new users into crypto. And most importantly, it's just making the DeFi experience so much smoother with projects such as Infinex, really allowing you to swap multi-chain in a proper multi-chain future. Bringing this to reality is amazing. And of course, finally, DeFi is still on top, but real-world assets and DeFi AI is definitely picking up the slack. So if DeFi AI or AI-fi or however you want to call it is the hot narrative right now, what can you do to best position yourself? Well, first of all, we need to understand category leaders and best projects in the space. Here you have 25 early or not so early anymore projects to actually focus on. And of course, the first and foremost, you have Vechain. Vechain is basically the ChatGPT of DeFi. Basically lets you talk to it like you would talk to ChatGPT, and it integrates with many projects and lets you actually do on-chain activities for such simple user experience. It's beyond crazy. There are some beta plays such as Citadel and Mobi. Those have been doing really well, but we'll touch more on those later. You also have stuff like Ask the Hive Buzz, which has won another Solana hackathon recently, skyrocketing in price again, and many others. But again, all of these videos are not meant to go in super detail regarding all of these. These are supposed to be amazing starting points for you to start researching these projects on your own. Through Sigma, of course, better ChatGPT, AIXBT, but again, it's been down incredibly bad over the last couple of days. So this is really the moment you need to show conviction and believe that it's actually going to do something. Now, of course, you have your AI infrastructure plays that will help you also experience DeFi in a more simpler way, such as Neuer and Lexicon. But again, those are too specific. You need to start really digging deep into these specific projects and understanding what's going on in this space. One thing to note is that there are projects that are actually not having a token right now, and Solana Foundation has actually ruled out Cleopatra Fund as one of the projects that they're going to actually be supporting in the mid to long term, because they are not actually focused on the token itself, quick pump and dump, but actual utility, building something useful. And maybe these are the projects that are actually worth following the most, ones that are going beyond the hype, beyond just speculation and tokenomics, but actually focusing on the product, so that once the project actually ships and delivers something of value, then you can actually have proper valuations on a project rather than just speculating on future utility where there's not ever a working product, maybe even developed. So this is something to really understand, that there are some amazing projects building without a token, and there is a tool that you can use to find these projects early where they don't really have a token yet, but you need to be attentive in the trenches and just see that it's not all happening just on Solana, but also on Base. But again, this is a whole other topic, and we're going to touch upon these maybe in the future videos where we get some more clarity on all these things. Of course, if you want to use a familiar interface, you can use the CoinGecko DeFi AI sector, but again, this list is not as curated, and I would not really consider potentially Mode or Spectral as DeFi AI plays. Sure, Mode is doing stuff with agents, Spectral is infra play, but it is not as good of a list as perhaps the one that we just talked about, which is GoToIndex.ai. So this is basically aggregating all the Solana AI hackathon projects, and it is basically cookie.fun interface, but it is also giving you some amazing filters such as no token yet, or maybe the biggest mindshare, and very similar, very easy to understand interface for identifying some quality projects super early. For example, we have Punky, which is apparently an AI agent used to set up, manage, and grow Web3 crowds on Discord. This doesn't have a token yet, but it is incubated by DeFi, which is, of course, one of the top launchpads in the gaming space, and it is built on Solana. They have a token coming up very soon, so definitely follow them up on X to see what's been going on in the latest development and news. And final, of course, indicator that DeFi AI sector is maybe the hottest thing right now is their market caps over the last 7 days. When the markets are really down bad, everything other than Fartcoin and AIXBT are kind of in the gutter. Here you can see that Vechain, Grift, Anon, and other category leaders are really doing very well and outperforming the markets. Of course, this is very vibrant, is going to change on a day-to-day basis sometimes, so it is really hard to keep up to tabs with everything just on YouTube. We have created our Discord for exactly the reason, to allow people to have access to quality alpha in real time. You can talk with other DeFi degens, showing you the best opportunities in the markets in real time. And if this is something that you want to be a part of, where we just not only talk about AI agents, but also actively tracking many outgoing and potential amazing airdrops, this is the place to be. If you want to join, you can check out our subscriptions page. Here you will see the monthly, yearly plans, airdrop tracking application, everything you need in the link of the description of every video. And of course, the NFT collection going strong for over a year now, and our partnership with Chris for almost half a year now is generating a 10% passive income every month. And you can learn about more about this also in our Discord, but we also have a free Telegram group where you can find out all information and have all your questions answered. Now, there's been a huge development with DAO ecosystem. BitTensor was actually the original AI play, and it's not going down without a fight. First of all, if you remember, Alex Becker talked in his last video how ideally, if you want to identify new narratives, you want to find smaller influencers on X who are very knowledgeable on a specific topic And that is how you can get ahead of the meta to see what's happening and what is actually going on. So DAO ecosystem has had a huge revamp. They launched their EVM and they're going to have a very, very competitive landscape for all the builders developing there and making sure that only the best product gets shipped and rewarded. Their new tokenomics are amazing, but first and foremost, you can also capitalize on some of the agentic plays in this ecosystem. We've already talked about the creator bid, which is one of the leading launchpads upcoming on this ecosystem in BitTensor. But of course, if you don't want to gamble away on maybe some more risky speculative plays, just take a look at some of the things that their new tokenomics are making. Every 12 seconds, there's going to be a new DAO token minted, and it is going to the best product, most mindshare, best builders in the ecosystem, and is basically a virtuous cycle of productive activity. This is, of course, very inflationary. There's going to be about 7,200, exactly that amount, so around a couple $1 million of inflationary pressure every day, but it is mostly being used to develop and build the ecosystem, so this is very, very, very bullish for the DAO in general. And finally, there is something going on with Seraph. This is basically a very specific niche project that is going to play a huge role in the future, where we're going to have to really verify what is a scam and what isn't, what is a deep fake on the internet and what is real. So it is adding a huge, huge utility to this space. Let's take a look at what it is exactly.
Is Seraph. Think of it as a fact checker for the internet, verifying the authenticity of online content. But it doesn't just stop there. Seraph tackles a bigger problem, the legitimacy of autonomous agents in the agent economy. Currently,
so yeah, as you can see, there's so many scams and it is just impossible to verify true trustlessness and agentic economies. This might actually play a huge part in the future. Alright, but what does all of this mean for you? How can you do your own research and make the best informed decisions for yourself? The point of this channel is to always try to teach you how to fish, not to just serve you roasted salmon at your pleasure. The most important thing is to understand how this data analysis all works. We have, of course, Cookie.fun. It is by far the best platform, as Santiago has eloquently put, the Google of AI agents. This is literally the best platform you can use today to best position yourself and understand the markets. We're always mentioning it in our videos because it is simply the premier source of alpha. Another one is, of course, AIXBT. And at this point, you might be wondering, okay, what is the point of influencers on YouTube, on X, anywhere, if we have such amazing tools such as Cookie and AIXBT and everything else? Well, we hope that it is going to actually in the future be some kind of human touch, understanding, aggregation of information, and just ability to know that you're talking with people who are actually having your best interests at heart. Of course, it is very hard to believe people, but again, I don't want to get too philosophical. The point is, you have Cookie.fun, you have AIXBT, and of course, as these Binance listings have been happening, it is just time to start paying attention if you still haven't. Now, there are some competitors such as Sharp AI. They're also doing something like ChatGPT style of interactions where you can talk with it in real time and it's just going to provide you with best information. It is still not in public, but you have another one also, Gatsby. It is also trying to be the new Cookie.fun. But again, this is also in the waitlist stage of things, and we will see if these competitors can even touch the bottom part of the top leader, Cookie.fun. And finally, let's take a look at what AIXBT has to say about all of these things. He was, in a way, one of the main reasons why AI has been taking such a huge part of crypto Twitter, why it's been exploding over the last couple of weeks and months, and what exactly is the purpose of all of this. Well, as you can see, it is becoming a new Binance listing because, for example, as soon as this thing has tweeted about this ASIM project, you can see it's 11:10 p.m. and on the charts 11:10 p.m. it is exactly when it rocketed by 50% in a matter of minutes. So there's been such huge understanding that AIXBT influences the markets that there's literally dApps that are showing you what are the projects that he's talking about and their current price appreciation or impact on the market it's doing. So it is not something that we can really ignore in this day and age. So what can we as human influencers even do to compete with such crazy machinery? Well, my hope for the future is that at least we can focus on the best performing projects that he's talking about, that we can give our own personal take over months or years of experience in this space, and most importantly, try to give you a humane understanding of what's been going on. So ARK has been one of the top performers, or the, let's call it, infrastructure plays over the last couple of weeks. There's been such bullish thesis regarding all all of these things, and most importantly, you can see that there's some real development being built here. Most importantly, teams are submitting framework applications during Christmas break to launch through Arc framework. So this is of course built on Rust. This is going to be much more complex, much more difficult than just, for example, on TypeScript, like what most other agentic deployers are doing, such as Eliza and others. But this is definitely incredibly bullish for the ecosystem, for Arc in general. And you can see that it has broken a new all-time high yesterday. And of course, small retracement with the Trump mania is happening. But this is definitely one of the plays that is quickly securing its spot in the markets. Now, if you're bullish on Sui, AXBT really cannot stop yapping about it. It is one of the most dominant layer ones out there, built on Move language, and it's just constantly talking about its metrics, how it's flipping Ton, Link, and all of the other chains out there. And if you really want to go for a little more degen risky play on Sui, there is something called suidaos.com. This is basically daos.fun, a launchpad for agents where projects can submit their application, and then there's a crowdfunding source. And of course, when something works on one chain, for example, Eliza AI16Z was actually incubated using DAOs.fun. So you have something similar happening on Sui, suidaos.com. But again, this is super risky, super degen. There is only one project currently being built over there, and it might also rug tomorrow, like you never know. But if you want to go for like a really full-on risk mode, maybe this is something to consider. And of course, we cannot go anywhere without metaverses. Currently, metaverse is also slightly in the backside of AI, but of course, it might take the spotlight again. HyperFi has exploded on the scene over the last couple of weeks, going to crazy valuations, cooling off now. But if you believe AI agents are going to find their home in the metaverse, maybe HyperFi and the beta play Realis could be some of the top projects if you're looking to get some exposure to metaverse AI sector. Of course, we cannot talk about metaverses without mentioning Bitmaps. Bitmaps is probably the most ambitious project being built on the Bitcoin ecosystem side of things. If AI agents ever make their way into Bitcoin, maybe there's going to be some renewed interest in this whole arena. Currently, Bitmaps are down incredibly bad from all-time highs. They were used to be worth like $600, $700. Remember, we minted them for $1 way back in summer of 2023. So we are still at these prices at 25x. But this could maybe be a long-term bet if you're really bullish on Bitcoin, on ecosystems such as Metaverse plays. So yeah, keep this in mind. And finally, there's some really niche projects that are building incredible utility. For example, if you remember, if you have ever tried to upload something on the blockchain that is like slightly bigger file, maybe just a couple megabytes. For example, when you were inscribing stuff on Unisat ages ago, I remember to just upload a couple megabytes of data, it would cost a couple $100, in some cases, a couple thousands of dollars, which is beyond crazy. Back then, nobody was using Bitcoin, so absolutely crazy. However, there's something called IQ6900, which is not actually a meme coin, even though it has a similar name to a meme coin, but they're actually trying to incredibly reduce the storage costs for inscribing and just doing stuff on chain. And this is remarkable because apparently it costs 7 Sol to store 1 megabyte of data on chain. So agents and AI is going to need this kind of infrastructure that dramatically reduces the costs for on-chain storage. And in this case, it's going to cost you 0.003 Sol instead of 7 Sol. So it's like, what, 6 cents or something. It's beyond ridiculous. So if you're kind of want to right curve something or mid curve, let's call it mid curving, maybe this is the tech play to really keep an eye out for IQ6900. And finally, of course, the main narrative that I believe is going to have the biggest impact in 2025 is going to have to do something with AI agents becoming more emotion-like, like more human-like. And there's a couple key players in this space. Of course, Solgraph, which has been doing really well over the last couple of weeks and months. There's some beta plays such as Agent Tank. These are a little more risky, a little more degen, but they're also in this sector. So if you want to bet in this sector, maybe getting some exposure to these as well might be worth it. And then the most risky one, the smallest market cap, this is one of the newer projects, Mements. But again, if you just want to stick with category leaders, Solgraph is probably the best bet, which has actually been performing incredibly well in pair with ARK, because if you're taking a look at their price actions, usually you don't want to just hold these tokens in your wallet if you can earn yield on them. And Solgraph and ARK, so AI Rig Complex, those have been the best pairings, farms of the day for multiple days already. They're very correlated in price and generating between 10 to 15% daily APR with Ethereum, which is beyond crazy. And final piece of alpha has to do with Wayfinder. Wayfinder development is being progressing very, very nicely. Now agents can deploy smart contracts autonomously, writing, testing, launching DeFi protocols without human input. It just looks unreal. But again, it is something that is still being developed. And once it actually goes live, we will make sure to cover it because it looks really revolutionary. And finally, the biggest bet that I believe is going to maybe even outperform XBT in the long term, which is, of course, very, very, very optimistic take on things. But if you take a look at what 3 Sigma does, it is basically better AXBT because it is actually giving you on-chain metrics, not just the social metrics of mindshare and everything. Now, of course, I could be completely wrong about this. There's some interesting catalysts happening, such as allowing 3 Sigma to actually trade on behalf of users for just 2% of the portfolio. It's going to be an investment fund, and this was very, very bullish for the price. It has rocketed to over 70 million market cap, but at the moment the price performance is beyond abysmal. However, this might just be a generational buying opportunity, or it can go to zero tomorrow. At this point, even Ivanka can launch her meme coin, like all bets are off. But all jokes aside, that is all the updates for AI space, all the important news, alpha, maybe even airdrop opportunity around this sector. And as always, if you like the content, make sure to like and subscribe, bell notifications on. Any questions, comments, maybe your insights. If I missed something, let me know in the comment section below and in our Discord. And if you're ready to take your AI game, crypto game, DeFi airdrops to the next level, we are waiting for you also in our Discord. Thanks for watching. Till next time, make sure to make the most of these markets and have an amazing day.